Welcome to episode 2 of the Breath of the Wild Pauseless Challenge. I go into more depth in the first episode about the rules, so please check out that before watching this video. But for a quick recap, essentially, this challenge was made by Game Champ, and I cannot pause the game by using the plus, minus, or up, left, or right on the D-pad, and that means I cannot quick travel, I cannot eat food, I cannot put on clothing without going to one specific place, I cannot hold or cook items. I'm trying to do as much of the game as I can before Tears of the Kingdom comes out, which is about a week and a half from me recording this voiceover. First, I mopped up some of the shrines in the Gerudo area. I couldn't do all of them due to not having the right equipment for some, but I was able to do a good chunk of them. With a decent amount of the shrines done, I decided it was time to take on Vah Medoh, but first I needed to prepare, so I decided to head back all the way to Hateno Village. We had a lot of things we needed to do to prepare, so I was ready for the long haul and decided to maybe do some shrines if I ever came across them, but for now I wanted to make a beeline to Vah Medoh. There's one problem with Divine Beasts in this game, and that is that they're special areas. If you ever leave them, you cannot re-enter them ever without using the map screen. This means we have to be absolutely prepared, because if we mess up and a weapon breaks or we don't have enough hearts, we are soft-locked and that's rip run. First thing I did was equip the Barbarian helmet. Unfortunately, I could not equip the entire Barbarian armor set because we needed 2 levels of cold protection to even survive the Vah Medoh battle. However, the helmet will definitely be useful in the battle against Windblight Ganon. Speaking of Windblight Ganon, we needed more hearts to face him, so I decided to go to speak to my good friend, the Devil, and exchange some of my stamina vessels for some heart containers. Next, it was time to grab every single bomb arrow in the land of Hyrule. Importantly though, we couldn't equip them yet, because I wanted to break my current bow without wasting any bomb arrows. I went to Rito Village to do the target practice, and then broke my bow while timing it out so I fired my last arrow at the same time my bow broke. For my next step, I went to the Tabantha Bridge and grabbed the royal bow that was there, as well as finally equipping bomb arrows. I had to use 4 of them to melt this ice cube containing a Knight's Shield. But don't worry, Teba's a generous guy, and he donates us 20 more bomb arrows. One more thing, make sure you have a metal weapon before triggering the fight. You will need one in Vah Medoh. It doesn't matter how strong the weapon is, it just has to be made out of metal. Luckily though, I had the strongest metal weapon that I could find, a Royal Claimer, so we'll be okay. We spoke to Teba, knocked out the 4 cannons, and then began the dungeon proper. This is the point of no return. So, how the Divine Beasts work is that you have to activate all 5 terminals in order to complete it. If even a single terminal isn't right side up, you cannot activate it and therefore cannot complete the Divine Beast. Luckily for us though, Vah Medoh starts with all 5 terminals facing right side up. So, this Divine Beast is completable. We still can't tilt the Divine Beast to solve its puzzles though, so we'll have to get a bit creative to get to each terminal. Terminal number 1. Climb to the top of the Divine Beast and glide down into the window of this little room in order to activate the first terminal. Unfortunately, after you do that, you'll quickly come to realize that you are stuck. Don't worry, it's not game over though. All you need to do is throw yourself off this cliff until you die. You lose 1 heart each time you run off, so if you have a bunch of hearts and fairies like me, you'll be doing this for a while. Oh, I forgot about I had the fucking fairies! No! Now I have to do it 10 more times! Eventually, though, you will game over, and you will respawn back at the start of the Divine Beast with the terminal activated and your health and fairies back at where they were at before. For the second terminal, all I needed to do was glide down and shoot this eyeball. Falling down did cause us want to lose 1 heart, but it's not that much of a punishment when we can just glide down a second time and enter. For Terminal 3, we simply used Link's infinite mass to push this button pusher into the button. For Terminal 4, we hit the switch to activate the wind gust and used that to get across. And for the final terminal, we circled back around top and flew into this window in order to activate it. After that, it's as simple as shooting Windblight Ganon in the face with our surplus of bomb arrows, and that's Vomito completed. We get Rivali's Gale, which will be a big help exploring the rest of Hyrule. When we eventually fight Calamity Ganon, he will be robbed of 1/8 his health bar. But the most important part is something I haven't explained yet. For every Divine Beast you haven't completed, you'll have to fight that Divine Beast's respective boss before you can even fight Ganon in a huge boss rush. By beating Vomito, Windblight Ganon is removed from that final boss rush, making our job that bit easier. With our surplus of bomb arrows, we mopped up some of the shrines that we missed before that required them, including Korguchida's Blessing, Korguchida's Shrine. This is the Eventide Island Shrine, so all our items are stripped away from us. Start by grabbing the axe here, before running over and grabbing the first orb. Return to the first pedestal and cut down this tree. It's a bit finicky and you will have to push the ball around in the water, but eventually you will be able to stand on the branch, grab the ball, and then throw it up to the platform. Go to the top of the mountain, and before any enemies notice you, use a Rivali's Gale to fly and land over on the raised platform where the orb is. As soon as you land, get ready to act fast. Pick up the orb and throw it off the platform, then throw your weapon and magnesis it to move the plate on top of the pedestal. Lure the enemies away from the pedestal, and then place the ball in it while the enemies are running towards it. The last orb was a lot more finicky for me. I planned to move the boxes on top of the pedestal before gliding down to the Hinox and grabbing the orb. But when I climbed back up the mountain with the orb, I found that the boxes had respawned back on the pedestal. This led to a mad scramble where I had to move the boxes off of the pedestal again before putting the orb into the pedestal while being under constant attack by the Bokoblins. Eventually though, I was able to do it and finally complete Eventide Island. When I exited the shrine, I got a bit scared because the raft I had used to get to the island had despawned, but don't worry, there's another raft right here. My next major goal was to climb Death Mountain and do all the shrines there. However, we need the Flamebreaker armor to do that. There's an NPC here at the Southern Mines that will give you a Flamebreaker armor for 10 fireproof lizards. However, it is located on Death Mountain where you will be burning to death. Luckily, there is a way there without dying, and the first step is to reach Eldin Tower. But first, we need fireproof lizards, 10 of them to be exact. So I spent some time in the maw of Death Mountain where I'm completely safe from the burning effect and grabbed some lizards. These guys are extremely annoying to gather because they love running away from you, but if you're sneaky enough, you'll eventually be able to get all 10. Next, with a surplus of hearts, I went to Eldin Tower and began the process of getting the Flamebreaker armor. There's one major problem with this, however. The game saves itself both when starting and ending the side quest to get the armor. This means that both prior autosaves will be in the burning area. This means that if we fail and are unable to make it back, it's rip run. But this was the only option we had, so I took a deep breath and jumped off of Eldon Tower. However, before doing this, be sure to have a two-handed weapon. My first step was to glide over to these hot springs over here, where I could easily heal up back to full. I had a bit of time as the water dripped off my body to run towards the man who will sell me the Flamebreaker armor. After that, I spoke to the man twice, acquiring the armor from them, but in order to put it on, I need to go all the way back to Hateno. That means I had to escape from this area without dying. Luckily, I had a secret weapon on my side. However, before I tell you about that, I want to show you my disastrous first attempt. On my first attempt, I fumbled my input so much that I ran out of time and eventually died. Luckily though, I knew it was possible, so I just booted up the save from after I completed the side quest. Now, let me teach you about my secret weapon. If you're on fire, simply start a spin attack with a two-handed weapon and then cancel it. You'll be granted a few seconds of not burning to death. Use that time to run forward, and then, when you start burning again, perform another spin. It's not a perfect solution, as you'll still be taking damage for the short time you're on fire, but it's enough to stall out your death long enough to make it back to the hot springs. After that, it's all the way back to Hateno to equip the Flamebreaker armor and get some stamina back from the Horned Demon. For our next step, we need to go all the way to Goron City and buy the rest of the Flamebreaker armor, and then go all the way back to Hateno to put it on before we're able to explore Death Mountain fully. Stalled flight, Dakuko Shrine. This lantern actually has collision, so stand on it, wait for the gate to open, and then jump right in. It was about at this point when I realized the monumental size of the task we had to do. You see, this is a map of all of the shrines we haven't done yet. Yeah, they're scattered all over Hyrule, and there's a lot of them, so we're going to be at this for a while. I probably won't be able to complete this challenge before Tears of the Kingdom comes out, but I'm going to do as much as I can, and maybe I'll return to the challenge someday. I completed the first and easiest of the 3 dragon shrines, and made my way to Korok Village, but did not draw the Master Sword. You see, when the Master Sword breaks, it rematerializes in your inventory, and the only way to re-equip it is to go to your inventory, face Calamity Ganon, or do the Trial of the Sword. We obviously don't stand a chance against the boss rush of the Blights without the Master Sword, so we can only pull the Master Sword once we are ready to face the final bosses. But I did do the 4 shrines within the Korok Forest, and found out that running into the fog while going backwards through the forest will take you back to the start. And if you run into the fog twice, you'll just be at the start perfectly fine. After taking that shortcut, I completed the Typhlo Ruin Shrine, before moving on to Blue Flame Shoraha Shrine. Without normal arrows, which I did not have equipped at the time, this shrine is a fucking pain. I decided to use Game Champ's strategy word for word, but in case you haven't seen that video, I'm going to break it down quickly for you. Again, please go watch her video, she does a much better job at explaining it than me. Get rid of whatever weapon you had, and grab the torch and light it with the blue flame. Toss the torch over the gap, and then run through the water and pick up the torch on the other side. You now have to sacrifice the torch to light the candle on the elevator. This is very precise, so try to aim and stand exactly where I am in this video. I found that standing forward and to the right of the candle on the ground, and then throwing the torch towards the left side of the wall here worked for me. Then, I magnesis the spike ball here and used it to kill the 4 Guardian Scouts. There's a difficult trick coming up, and I didn't want them interrupting me while I was attempting it. Do a difficult shield jump to get onto this ledge and around the first gate. The trick to this is to get a walking, not running start, and then jump onto the candle and then continue forward as you jump towards the ledge. Get up onto this ledge right here, then get a short running start and glide around the second gate. Do timed running jumps to get from moving platform to moving platform, but once you get to the second one, glide over to this wind gust. There's a chest up here containing a forest dweller's sword, which is kind of the savior of this shrine. It's almost like the devs know what we're trying to do. Go back to the start of the shrine, light the sword with the blue flame, and proceed through the shrine like you normally would. Charge a spin attack near the right candle, then hold left right before you release the Y button to light both candles with the same spin attack. It's kind of hard to explain exactly how to do this trick, you just have to kind of get a feel for it yourself. Next, throw the sword towards this part of the ceiling and it should land on the other side, still burning. Then, do running jumps again to get across the moving platforms and over to this wind gust. Ride the wind gust up to where the sword is and grab it. Run over to this spot and prepare to throw the sword across another gap. You kind of want to aim for this orange constellation in the corner of the wall right there. Use the wind gust to get over to the other side and grab the sword, run past the guardian scouts, and then perform a spin attack to complete the shrine in the normal manner. A major test of strength, Tutsuanima Shrine. The strategy for this shrine was to take a minecart over to where Dinral spawns, shoot a scale off of him, and then use the minecart to carry the scale all the way to the Spring of Power. I waited for 2 full hours for Dinral to spawn, and he never showed up. I was standing there for many days and many night cycles, and he never showed up. I have no idea why this happened. He just decided to take a day off. I made it to the end of the stream, and he still hadn't showed up. And unfortunately, this was the last day of streaming this challenge before Tears of the Kingdom came out. So I decided to call it quits there. So that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and thank you once again to GameChamp for her VODs. They were really helpful with me doing this challenge. I might return one day with an episode 3 after Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not sure. It depends on if my streaming schedule is available, but I do want to return to this challenge one day. Anyway, thank you for watching.